What's up guys, Josh Fossgreen here, and today we are beginning an exciting series of rhythm basics where we will get you from square zero to square a million on your rhythmic capabilities. And you can actually stick around if you play another instrument. This is not just for bass players, but of course it's geared to you bass players because that's what we're all about here at the Josh Fossgreen YouTube channel. So today is going to be very basic but important, so don't get bored already just because I said basic. This will bolster your confidence so that in future weeks you will feel like, well, this is challenging, but last week I totally kicked butt. So that's where we're starting today. And I just want to start by talking about what rhythm actually is. And this is my definition, not necessarily what's in a musical dictionary. But basically, rhythm is the occurring over time element of music. So harmony happens vertically, like hearing multiple notes at the same time. You're hearing those at the same moment in time in relation to each other, which you can think of as vertical. And then rhythm is time inevitably moving forward and how those things relate to each other in the sequence of time passing. So that's what rhythm is all about, and it's very simple math when we look at rhythm. It's all just basic, very simple divisions of what we would call the beat or the pulse of the music. But what is the pulse of music? I would like to start with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, as all good lessons start with, and just look at what makes up this little song. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Okay, we all know that song. So what am I doing with the snaps there? I'm outlining what you could call the pulse of this song, even though the actual rhythm you sing isn't exactly that pulse. The basic feel, if you had to give it a feel of Twinkle Twinkle, would be twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Okay, so this is the pulse of the music. Whatever is happening in the vocal melody, or if somebody took a blazing solo over it, that pulse would remain unchanged. And that pulse is what we play all of our rhythms in relation to. And in terms of written music and talking about different rhythms and stuff, we would usually call that pulse the beat also. And all these rhythms we're going to look at today are organizing those pulses into different groupings and divisions. And it's actually all very simple. It's just a matter of practicing and getting it all under your fingers, whatever instrument you might be playing. And today we're going to look at 3 different rhythmic values, which may seem like a lot, but these are all actually pretty easy to get a grasp on. So, first element of rhythm that we'll talk about real quick is just the way we organize pulses. So twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Another thing we can notice about that is how are those phrases grouped in time. We've got 2 vocal phrases, right? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, and how I wonder where you are. The first phrase, twinkle, twinkle, little star, we've got 4 pulses, and then the second phrase, how I wonder where you are, or what you are, whatever the words are. So we've got pulses grouped in groups of 4. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Da 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 da. Dee 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 dee. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. It's all groups of 4. So what we could say about that is that the music is in 4/4 time, which means that we're organizing our pulses into groups of 4. And in written music, you would call that group of 4 beats or pulses a measure or a bar. So when you hear that terminology, that's all that means, is there's a certain number of beats in a measure or a bar. And in this case, we're looking at 4 beats in a measure. Okay, hopefully that makes sense so far. So then proceeding from there, what we can look at with naming different rhythmic values is how they relate to how much space they take up in that bar. So the first value we're going to look at, and I will put pretty little graphics over my face as I talk about this, is a whole note, which is just a note that would take up all 4 of the beats that would fit in a measure. So if we were to count a pulse of 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and play a note every 4 beats and hold it all the way through the bar, that would be called a whole note. And the way all these rhythmic divisions are going to work is basically just dividing that whole note into 2 and then into 2 again, into 2 again, and then you can divide it into 3s as well in the future. But basically, all we're going to look at today is whole notes, which are all 4 of the beats in that measure. And then the next division is called half notes, which would just be, as the name suggests, 2 notes in each measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first note gets held for beat 1 and 2, so you get 2 beats there. The second note will be held for beats 3 and 4, which is 2 beats there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be a basic half note pulse. So the pulse is still clicking along 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're playing half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's all just divisions in relation to that basic pulse still. So the third value we'll look at today, we got whole notes, half notes, and the last one is quarter notes, which are just right along with those beats. Our pulse goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 beats in a measure, and if we were to play a note on each one of those beats, those would be called quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just in order, I'll play you a whole note, 2 half notes, and 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're doing each time, basically, we've got 4 beats to start with, then we've got a 2 beat note, and then we've got a 1 beat note. So we're just cutting those values in half. It's very simple math. Let's look at exercise 1 here. This is just going to be whole and half notes before we worry about reading quarter notes. So what we have here is 1 whole note in the first bar, 2 half notes in the second bar, 2 half notes in the third bar, and then another whole note in the fourth bar. So if we clap that out, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? So let's, before we play this, let's just listen to how this drum beat is going to go, and let's see if we can find the pulse in the drum beat. So it's a little bit of a funky drum beat, which is something I like to do in these videos to keep things interesting. So if I was going to count the pulse, I would find it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I was going to play a whole note, I would hold it for 4 of these beats, half note for 2 of these beats, and quarter notes for a single beat. But we're going to do all whole and half notes here. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great work. Hopefully that was pretty easy for you. It's just two different rhythms to worry about there. And you know, if it's hard for you to think about the rhythm and play the notes at the same time that I've written out there, feel free to just pluck an open string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. But hopefully that part was pretty easy. We're going to get slightly more complex now with exercise 2, and we're going to actually read some quarter note rhythms. And this will also introduce the element of rests, because for every rhythmic notation symbol that tells you to play a note, there's the equivalent antimatter version, which is a rest, which tells you not to play anything. So just like there's whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and beyond, which we'll get to in future videos, there's whole rest, which take up a whole bar, half rest, which take up a half bar, and quarter rest, which take up a single beat. And I'll be showing you all those symbols right now with digital magic also. Okay, so exercise 2, if we just look at this measure by measure, or bar by bar, those words mean the same thing. The first measure is just 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty easy. Then bar 2, we've got 2 quarter notes and a half rest. So we'll play 1, 2, and then rest on 3 and 4, because a half rest takes up 2 beats, and it's landing on beat 3. Then if we look at bar 3, we've got 1 quarter note, a quarter rest on beat 2, and then play quarter notes on beats 3 and 4. So it'll go 1, rest, 3, 4 would be bar 3. And then the last bar on that line, we've got a rest on beat 1, a quarter rest, which takes up 1 beat. And then we've got quarter notes on beats 2, 3, and 4. So here we go with exercise 2, and this time we're going to use just a basic click on beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 instead of a full drum beat. So this hi-hat sound is just marking quarter notes. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to line up nicely with the quarter notes we're playing. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. right, really great. So now you have played whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes, and you've dealt with some rests of those values as well, and you know what a measure and a bar are, and you know what a pulse is. And the last little theoretical thing I want to throw in today before we do this last musical example is if you look at the beginning of exercise 1, you'll see it says 4-4. At the beginning, there's a 4 with a 4 under it. That is called the time signature, and I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about having 4 beats per measure. This is the formal sheet music version of what I said. The top 4 means 4 beats per measure, and the bottom 4 is just for the sheet music, which indicates what type of note is called a beat. Which in this case is a quarter note, which means we get 4 quarter notes in a bar, or 2 half notes, or 1 whole note. If I were to write it 4 over something else, like 4 over 8, then there would only be 4 eighth notes in a bar. Or if I wrote 4 over 2, then there would be 4 half notes in a bar. But by far, 4-4 is the most common way to write music that has 4 beats per measure. So you really only have to worry about that top number in the type signature in terms of how the music actually sounds. The bottom number is just about how it's written. So let's look at exercise 3 here, which is slightly more musical than our previous examples. And we're going to put our drum beat back on, and we're going to play this little bass line. And also, you'll notice in the PDF that there's a little teacher part for this. I'm going to do some strumming on another track. And if you have the technical means, you can play with that if you want to for fun. If not, no problem. So here we go with exercise 3. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it for lesson 1. We've covered whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes, and in the next lesson we're going to get into eighth notes and syncopation, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please share it with your friends on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, whatever. I really appreciate that. It really helps me continue to reach more people with these bass and music lessons. And if you have the financial means, I really appreciate if you check out my Patreon page, where you can get groovy rewards for contributing on a regular basis, including downloads of original music, monthly hangouts, and more cool stuff. So check that out, and you can also make one-time donations through my website with PayPal or Venmo. And I really appreciate all of you who take the time to do that, because if only 2% or even less of you would do that on a regular basis, then I could actually do this as a full-time job. So please keep in mind that your contributions do matter, however small, and I really appreciate them. And I will see you next week for rhythm lesson numero dos. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.